How do you find out about a guy named Alexander the Great? Because you have a bunch of eyewitnesses who were Alexander the Great's buddies who wrote about him? No, sir, you do not. You see how naive you guys are when it comes to history?
There's archaeological evidence.
There's archaeological evidence with the Bible too.
That Jesus existed?
You actually have is one individual claiming that 500 people saw the resurrection of Christ. And if your burden of evidence for believing something is you can't prove it's not true and one person said it, I could believe anything. I could believe absolutely anything. I could believe in the tooth fairy because if someone wrote that the tooth fairy existed and he said that 500 people saw the tooth fairy exist, that would be precisely the same amount of evidence that exists for the resurrection of Jesus Christ.
All right, we're going to have to start at ground level here, ground zero.
Red flag bullshit.
There is a difference between scientific knowledge and historical knowledge.
That ain't what they talking about.
Scientific knowledge is based on the repeatability of an experiment. If you prove something scientifically here at UT, but you cannot show it in London, England, in a lab, it's not science. Science is based on your ability to repeat the experiment that taught you something. And if you can't repeat the experiment, it is not scientific knowledge. Historical knowledge has nothing to do with repeatability. You don't haul Abraham Lincoln back in here in a lab and have him assassinated by John Wilkes Booth every September. That is not historical knowledge. Historical knowledge is based on a single event, eyewitnesses seeing it, and they write what they see. Science, you've got to be able to repeat it. If you can't repeat it, it's not science. History, you never repeat. You record what you see, people do, they write it down. That is why when you guys say, scientifically, you've got to prove the resurrection, you're in the wrong class, guys. You don't scientifically prove that Washington was the first president of the United States. You historically verify it by eyewitness testimony.
This guy better never come into contact with me. Never. Because I'm finna give you that smoke. The first thing is that the way he swerved these young adults was to change what they said as far as archaeological evidence into scientific evidence. Archaeological evidence and scientific evidence are vastly different. And archaeological evidence is historical evidence. You see, eyewitness account has absolutely nothing to do with historical evidence. As a matter of fact, eyewitness account and literature are the weakest forms of archaeological evidence, of historical evidence. Archaeology demonstrates that Alexander existed because we have vases, pottery, we have literature as well, but we also have shields, we have coins, we have multiple sources of those coins and pottery and things of that nature from multiple different countries to which he invaded and conquered. So archaeologically, we can prove Alexander. Archaeologically, we can prove George Washington through the same method. It is not through eyewitness that George Washington is proven. No. It is through the evidence of the ownership of his house, the coinage, the documents to which he himself penned. It is through those types of methods that we prove the literature about George Washington, to which we've proven that George Washington chopping down a cherry tree was a political propagandist piece of information, that it never actually happened. Prove that that didn't happen. You see, this guy only tries to go after people that he know that he can swerve, because if I was standing in the crowd, I would have interrupted him, and the first thing I would say is that scientific evidence of repeatability has absolutely nothing to do with historical evidence, and that is not what they said. They talked about archaeological evidence, which is the proof of something through validation of other methods, i.e. coinage, pottery, things of that same nature from other communities. Jesus has none of those. None of those. No coins, no pottery. He has no evidence from other sources. The sources to which the young man talked about was Paul saying that he spoke to somebody who said 500 people witnessed the resurrection, which the Gospels don't even say that. The Gospel says nothing about that. There's only like at max like 8 people who witnessed the resurrection, and they didn't really witness it. They just saw that there was no body in the tomb. But 500 people didn't witness this. That's what Paul just said from somebody else who said that they saw what other 500 people said they saw, which is not valid. So it is still literature, and it's telephone game as to that proof. But there is nothing else that proves it. Absolutely nothing that proves this resurrection. There's absolutely nothing that proves Jesus ever existed. Tacitus, Pliny the Younger, they merely wrote about what people believed, which writing about what people believe does not make it evidence of truth. It's just what people believe. So fuck that bullshit. And I wish this dude would ever come and debate me. I don't like debating, but I would debate his ass. So y'all have a great day. And remember always, you got to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations.